Imagine a woman, standing over her dead husband, a smoking gun in her hand. The city screams murderer, the headlines condemn her, and she shows no emotion. But what if her silence hid a truth so devastating, it would leave everyone in tears? This is the unbelievable story of Eleanor Vance, and the reason she killed the man she loved.
The silence in the grand, opulent living room was broken only by the rhythmic drip of rain against the window panes. But it wasn't the rain that sent a chill down the spine of Detective Miller. It was the stillness of the man on the Persian rug, a crimson stain blooming on his pristine white shirt, and the woman standing over him, a smoking pistol clutched loosely in her hand. Her name was Eleanor Vance, and she had just shot her husband, Arthur Vance, one of the city's most respected philanthropists and businessmen. News of the murder ripped through the city like a wildfire. Arthur Vance, beloved by many, dead by his wife's hand? It was unfathomable. The headlines screamed, Socialite murders millionaire husband Eleanor Vance, a cold-blooded killer. Public outrage was immediate and fierce. People who had once admired Eleanor's quiet elegance now saw only a monster. Whispers turned into shouts, condemning her without a trial. When the police led her away, her face was a mask of eerie calm, devoid of tears, remorse, or even a flicker of fear. This stoicism only fueled the public's conviction. She was guilty, and she was heartless. How could a woman kill the man who had given her everything, and show no emotion? The city demanded answers, and most importantly, justice. The investigation began, swift and relentless. Every piece of evidence pointed directly at Eleanor. The gun, registered in Arthur's name, was found in her hand. Her fingerprints were on it. There were no signs of forced entry, no struggle, no other suspects. It was an open and shut case, or so it seemed. Yet, something gnawed at Detective Miller. Eleanor Vance, a woman known for her quiet demeanor and charitable work, didn't fit the profile of a ruthless killer. But her silence was deafening. During interrogations, she offered no confession, no explanation, no plea of innocence. She simply stared ahead, her eyes holding a depth of sorrow that Miller couldn't quite decipher. Her appointed defense attorney, a young, earnest lawyer named Sarah Jenkins, found herself facing an impossible client. Eleanor refused to cooperate, refusing to discuss the events of that night, or even her relationship with Arthur. "There's nothing to say," she would utter, her voice barely a whisper. Sarah tried every angle, self-defense, temporary insanity, but Eleanor shot them all down with her quiet refusal. The public narrative solidified. Eleanor Vance was a calculating murderer, and her silence was proof of her guilt. But Sarah, despite her frustration, sensed a profound sadness beneath Eleanor's composure, a hidden pain that contradicted the public's perception. She knew there had to be more to the story, a missing piece that Eleanor was determined to keep hidden. The trial was a media circus. The prosecution, led by the formidable District Attorney Thompson, presented a damning case. They painted Arthur Vance as a benevolent figure, a pillar of the community, and Eleanor as a greedy, ungrateful wife who had betrayed him. Photos of Arthur's smiling face flashed across screens, juxtaposed with Eleanor's impassive mugshot. The jury, swayed by public opinion and the seemingly overwhelming evidence, seemed ready to deliver a swift guilty verdict. Eleanor sat through it all, her gaze fixed, unblinking. Then came the defense's turn. Sarah Jenkins, against all odds and Eleanor's continued silence, began to weave a narrative of her own. She called to the stand Dr. Evelyn Reed, a renowned neurologist, who testified about Arthur Vance's increasingly rare and aggressive form of early-onset Alzheimer's disease. The courtroom stirred, a ripple of confusion spreading through the benches. Dr. Reed explained how the disease had progressed rapidly in recent months, leading to severe cognitive decline, violent outbursts, and periods of complete disorientation. She presented medical records, carefully redacted to protect Arthur's privacy, showing a man who was rapidly losing himself, his mind, and his dignity. The prosecution objected, arguing relevance, but the judge allowed the testimony, sensing a shift in the air. The true, heartbreaking reason began to unfold with Dr. Reed's testimony. Arthur Vance, the man everyone admired, had been suffering in silence, his brilliant mind eroding day by day. He had chosen to keep his illness a secret, fearing the public's pity and the loss of his independence. Only Eleanor knew the full, terrifying extent of his deterioration. Sarah then called to the stand Arthur's personal assistant, a tearful woman named Maria, who recounted incidents of Arthur's confusion, his sudden rages, and his desperate pleas for help, all witnessed only by Eleanor. Finally, Sarah called Eleanor to the stand. Her voice, though soft, carried through the hushed courtroom. She spoke of Arthur's final weeks, of his lucid moments filled with terror and despair, of his profound fear of becoming a burden, a shell of his former self. She recounted the night of the shooting, not as an act of malice, but of profound, agonizing love. Arthur, in a moment of clarity amidst the fog of his illness, had begged her, pleaded with her, to end his suffering before the disease completely consumed him. He had placed the gun in her hand, his eyes filled with a desperate plea for peace. He looked at me, truly looked at me, and said, "Please, Eleanor, don't let me disappear completely. Don't let this disease take everything." A collective gasp filled the courtroom, followed by the quiet sniffles of jurors and spectators alike. Eleanor's face, once stoic, was now streaked with tears, the dam finally broken. She had carried his secret, his final wish, and the unbearable burden of fulfilling it, all to protect his dignity and memory. It was an act of mercy, a final, agonizing sacrifice born of a love so deep it transcended societal norms and legal boundaries. The courtroom was awash in a sea of tears. The public, once so quick to condemn, now understood. The headlines shifted dramatically, from "Killer Wife" to "A Wife's Agonizing Choice," and "The Unbearable Burden of Love." The jury, after hours of deliberation, returned with a verdict that reflected the profound shift in understanding. Not guilty. The judge, his voice thick with emotion, acknowledged the extraordinary circumstances of the case, emphasizing the immense suffering endured by both Arthur and Eleanor. Eleanor Vance walked out of the courthouse not as a free woman in the eyes of the law, but as a woman forever marked by an impossible choice. The public no longer saw a monster, but a tragic figure who had made the ultimate sacrifice for the man she loved. Her story became a poignant reminder that appearances can be deceiving, that beneath the surface of every judgment lies a complex tapestry of human experience, and that sometimes the greatest acts of love are the most painful and misunderstood. Eleanor vanished from the public eye, seeking solace in anonymity, but her story lingered, a testament to the depths of human compassion and the unbearable weight of a love that demanded the unthinkable.